Okay, guys, let me do a quick recap, and then we'll go straight into the next trip. So to start off, I took I had a few trips that were very light, they were very fun, and then eventually I had kind of the one that kind of like broke through, the one where I kind of experienced death. I did that with my girlfriend. We kind of experienced growing old, dying, and getting caught in time, which is an important part of going through this psychedelic journey, this hero's journey, I guess, version of the psychedelic journey. Anyways, and then I started trying to figure out more about what I was doing, and found out about the importance of music, and that was the last two trips that I covered, really. The importance of music and the different types of the psilocybin mushrooms that I was using. At this point in time in the chronological order, I was still only taking. I still only had the three types: the Golden Teachers, B pluses, and Treasure Coast. And so on this one, this is my B plus. This is probably my first heroic dose, I'm guessing. I don't remember exactly how much I took, but it was probably my first heroic dose. And it's also probably the first time where I actually closed my eyes for pretty much 90% of the trip. I had slowly, I hadn't been closing my eyes on the majority of my trips, and then slowly I started closing my eyes more and more, and I'd close my eyes for about half an hour at a time, and and so finally this is the one where I kind of like sat down, laid down on my little couch in my trip room, and actually closed my eyes for the whole night. My girlfriend wasn't there with me. My girlfriend had probably done another trip with me in between, like the Blade Runner Blues trip and this trip. There was probably one in between, if I had to guess. And it was probably one where the girl just kind of sat with me on the couch and I just kind of laid on her lap, I would guess. That seems right. Let's see. So this one I call it my my B plus space kind of space trip. So I had gone back to the spacey kind of music, the little more instrumental. I don't know. Some people might call it like psytrance or something like that. So one of those types of music, one of those electronica types of music, not house, but a little bit more instrumental. So, anyways, so the girlfriend wasn't with me on this one. She actually had, she was, just spending the night at her own house. And that's important later on, but I remember curling up with my blanket and everything like that. I still have, I still use that dang tiger blanket to this day, but I curled up in my little tiger blanket, and I shut my eyes, and colors came on a little slow, if I remember correctly. And as they started coming on, the colors were kind of shifting into more recognizable things. I started seeing like stars. I started seeing like nebulas, like gas nebulas, and I started seeing a lot of like, space dust clouds and particles and things like that. And as I was laying there, I was slowly losing feeling of my whole body. And it got to the point where, I no longer felt my body at all. My eyes were closed, and I'm leaning back, and I'm just basically flying through space. It was really, really interesting. It was the sense of time didn't stop, though. I wasn't frozen in time like I was on the Golden Teachers when I had my little growing old with the girlfriend. So this one was much more synced with time. The trip it lasted 4 hours, and it felt like it lasted 4 hours. It didn't feel like it was much longer than that. But I'm just the music. At one point in time, I almost think I completely lost hearing of the music. I was so into the whole flying around the universe type stuff, And like as I'm flying around and I'm looking at these space clouds and everything, I was thinking of my girlfriend because she wasn't there with me, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to be telling the girl about this, because one of the things I do on my trips when the girl's with me is I often describe what I'm seeing, or I describe what I'm feeling or what's going on, because she doesn't get the same visuals that I get necessarily, and so usually I like to describe it to her. I like to get it out, like that's one of the things I like to do on my trips and I think it's kind of important for me to like be talking about what's actually going on. With it helping, it helps also with me remembering them. The ones that I don't remember as well are usually ones where I wasn't speaking it out loud, where I was just kind of by myself or in my own mind or something like that. Whereas when I'm with the girl, the trips are a little bit more memorable because I can speak to her, and those words kind of hit into your memory a little harder. So, anyways, I was flying around in space on this trip, and I remember thinking about my girlfriend and everything like that. And so I started to see like a purple aura, and every time I'm on the mushrooms and I think I can see an aura, which I don't necessarily know if I believe in any of that kind of stuff, auras or whatnot, but if my girlfriend did have an aura, it would definitely be purple, because that seems to be the color I seem to associate with her when I'm on the mushrooms. So I'll be sitting there laying there, I was sitting there laying there, flying through space, and I was thinking about her, and I started to see this purple aura, and it formed in like a giant, nebula out there amongst the stars, and just starts forming. It kind of formed a little bit to my left, and I had to like look at it for a minute, and as I was looking at it, I could actually see my girlfriend sleeping. It was wild. I could see her face and her body, and it kind of like she would form in the cloud, and then she would kind of like disappear, and then all of a sudden I went into the purple cloud, and then I could kind of see her face from different angles at the same time. I could see like 4 of her faces. So this was really interesting, because what ended up happening on this trip is after that I just flew around a lot more, just was flying around space, just listening to the music and everything like that. I'm pretty sure I got up at one point in time, went pee, and when I came back, I changed music, but I just continued to fly around space when I closed my eyes again. But at the end of the trip, what was really interesting is the girlfriend ended up waking up. And this is like the middle of the night. This is like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., something like that. I probably took if I had to guess, I'd say I probably took them about 10 or 11, something like that. So at the end of the trip, she ended up waking up, and we ended up texting each other. I don't remember who texted who first or something like that. It might have been me that texted her first, just saying like I love you or something like that, before going to bed. And she texted me back, and we sit there, and I told her I had seen her aura or something like that. Yeah, quite fascinating. So it's just another key, I guess, to the puzzle, that like what's going on is a little bit more than just in your head. So interestingly enough, I just watched a video on a guy who had psychosis after his first DMT trip. That was interesting, and a lot of the things that he experienced on the psychosis was very similar to what like some of the themes of the trips I've had. And so I'm kind of stuck contemplating a few of those things. It's really hard to determine, is a person, these people that see all these things, Are they delusional? Or are we actually seeing something? I don't know. The thing is a lot of people seem to see the same things. So this is about to get into a huge philosophical thing right here. So let me take a quick break, do a sponsor, and then we'll come on back. Hey guys, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about the app I use to make this podcast that you're listening to. It's a free app. It's called Anchor. When I started creating my podcast, I never thought that I would get as many plays as I've been getting. One of the coolest things that Anchor does is it actually distributes your podcast for you. So the podcast can be heard on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. Anchor has a bunch of creation tools, so you can record and edit right from your phone. You can also download the program on your computer. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in like one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So I had mentioned in my first episode that I was a police officer, and after taking the mushrooms, I left the police force fairly quickly. It was actually probably around the time of my 6th trip, so it was about that time. It's about when I left the police force. I probably left the police force probably like maybe a week or two before that. So it's interesting to think about, how far I've come from there and everything, and basically coming up on my next 2 trips, which I'm going to make on the next episode, not this episode, is basically I went into the whole the abyss, the hell, the incredible emotional states, that it takes to kind of break through to get through the next part of the hero's journey, I guess you could say. But at this point in time, if we're sticking to chronological order and everything like that, my whole experiences, I was still trying to grapple quite with what I had discovered, and in my head I was like, I was still kind of thinking that these things were illusions, or hallucinations. That's what the police call them. The police call these things hallucinations. And like I said, I just watched a video today on a guy who had a psychotic break, or he called it a psychotic break. But then I sit there and I kind of compare it to my own trips, and I sit there and I say, no, you didn't have a psychotic break. You had fought against the DMT, and he had taken DMT. I was thinking he had fought against the DMT, and so that message that it was trying to get across, he had kind of he didn't go through it properly. It's like when you do these things, when you go through the process of actually, taking a psychedelic, it's almost like you have to be in the right state of mind. That's obvious. You also have to treat it with respect and everything, and that's something that I'll get into like the really later trip. My last trip with the girl was absolutely incredible. I've had so many that were incredible, and it's just so hard to go through all of them. It's hard to realize, it's like when you on some of the trips, when you arrive in the same place that you've been before on another trip, it makes you feel like the place is a solid and real location, And see, I sit there, one of the guys I watched a video on recently, he's one of those guys that takes massive doses of psilocybin. We're talking 21, 30 plus grams, 21 or plus or 30 plus grams. And that's insane. I couldn't even imagine taking, 20 grams of mushrooms. I don't even think I could actually stomach them. When that's a funny thing. That's what started happening around this time, I guess, with this this report I just told you. You start getting the taste of mushrooms in your mouth. It's a very strange thing. It's incredibly strange, but when it's time to take the mushrooms again, for some reason, you'll have the taste in your mouth. Or when you sit there and you think about it, like I'll be thinking, oh, I'll probably trip on Friday or whatever. I say in my head, and it's like the day before I'll start to taste mushrooms in my mouth. It's a very unpleasant taste. I don't know if anybody's listening hasn't taken psilocybin mushrooms. They are, and every time that I took them, and this still continues this day, every time is the worst, or it's the worst that they've ever tasted, which is really, really weird, because it's like when I first took them, I thought, oh, these don't taste that bad, It's like I was surprised. They almost tasted like, I think I made the analogy that they were like potato chips, and even on that 6th trip, they still just kind of like, it was still pretty easy for me just to eat them. And I tried all sorts of things too. I tried doing teas. I tried grinding up the psilocybin and then putting it into a tea and then drinking it. I tried eating fresh ones. That didn't work out so well. I didn't get very high on those ones. Mostly, I guess I had mismeasured it, because the wet ones are, the fresh mushrooms. It's a little hard to judge their weight, as in comparison to when they're dry. When they're dry, it's real easy to know how much you're taking usually. Although some of my mushrooms do have less psilocybin in them, clearly. I have had a few trips where I had taken like 5 grams and I felt like I had only taken like 2 or 3, and I can usually easily tell the difference. But then I've had a few times where I took like 3.5 and I basically felt like I was on 5 grams, and so it's one of those things that's not completely reliable, but I've gotten better at getting the good mushrooms. It really helps depending on what strain you get. Those coast ones, the India ones, those are really, really strong. 3.5 of that is enough to knock most people probably on their butts. I don't even know if I've done 5 grams on those yet. No, I must have. That must have been a certain trip I was thinking of. But anyways, so one of the things I'm trying to grapple with here, and this is the whole point of the podcast. This one's a little rambly. I'm sorry. This one's kind of me just messing around with some thoughts, because I don't. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out if the mushrooms, are they really taking us maybe to like the astral realm? What would the Vikings would have called it, Asgard, or what did I don't know. I think the Buddhists call it like Arupa Jahana or something like that. That's what they call it. I don't know. The Greek would have just called it Mount Olympus or something, although Mount Olympus was also a physical location. Like the Native Americans in the Southwest, they called it like the House of Stone and Light. It also referred to the Grand Canyon. That's what they call the Grand Canyon as well. A lot of the shamans in the old days, they called it the Tree of Life. So all these things are like, it's like they're in our history, and I'm pretty sure it makes sense that basically everybody was on psychedelics, and that's how they got to these locations and these states of mind. I don't know. It's like I compare it to Moses on the mountain talking to the burning bush. When you're in that realm, when you're on the mushrooms, and if you have a mystical experience. See, that's another thing too, right there. That's a good point. You can be high on the mushrooms and not have a mystical experience. I've done that before, and it's not a fun thing, because I personally don't like getting high. I don't like the feeling. That's why I never really liked smoking pot. Well, I never even took pot until like after I took mushrooms, but I tried it after, and now the only way I use THC is to enhance a psychedelic trip. I don't like feeling high. I don't like feeling drunk. So what I do when I'm on a trip is I'm trying to have that mystical experience. I work really hard, especially with the girlfriend, to try to make sure that we actually have a mystical experience. And that's part of me setting up my trip room and everything, like on that last podcast where I kind of explained how to set up a trip room and everything like that. And also a trip ceremony. That's another little bonus episode I want to make. But if you have an appropriate room, you have an appropriate setting, you have an appropriate just ceremony. A ceremony doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be ritualistic in any way. It doesn't have to be like dogmatic either. Just do kind of the same thing to get the same results, and it seems to work out for me now. I've gotten much better at it, so I don't have those non-mystical experiences anymore. But when you have the mystical experience, it's like being transported into another realm. And I think that's what that B+ was. That B+, to bring it back to the beginning here, the trip report. That's what that B+ space was. I had kind of entered into the astral plane, and I was kind of flying through space, and the things I was seeing probably weren't. They could have been real places, but then again, they could not have been. They could have just been, I don't know, just something else. But I'm not for sure. But the point is though, is that I definitely sometimes when I'm on the mushrooms, I'm definitely leaving my body. My soul is leaving my body. And that's something I had in these, if once again staying in chronological order, I hadn't realized that yet. I hadn't realized that my soul was leaving my body, and I hadn't discovered my true self yet either. Even though that was probably my true self flying around in that B+ space. What happens later in the trips, after I'm done with my my bad trips, right? Basically, the next two trips next couple trips are gonna be bad trips. And then what happens is after that, all of a sudden I discover my true self. And the true self is the thing that comes out now whenever I trip. And it's much, I don't know, the true self is like me untethered. It's like I can think like incredibly clear when I'm in that state, and I can use my brain in a much more linear fashion than I can like right now. Like if you listen to this podcast, it sounds a little scattered. I kind of jump around subjects a little bit too much, and that's just me, like here as I am normally. But when I'm out there flying around in the astral realm, when I'm on the other side and I'm having the mystical experience, somehow everything is like sharpened and in line. Your body is not holding back your soul, and so your soul, the true you, comes out and is able to do things like see my girlfriend's aura, I guess. Once again, if you believe in stuff like that, I'm not really for sure about that one. If she did have an aura, I would say it was purple. That's what I'm saying there on that. So, anyways, interesting stuff. I'm sorry, this one's just a little bit more scatterbrained. The thing is basically me and the girlfriend had a trip on Friday, 3 days ago. Today is Monday. We had a trip, and it was a pretty powerful trip. It was one of the most powerful trips I'd had. Not the most powerful, but it was a big one of realization and everything, and it helped form back the whole fact that all these are archetypical, all these trips, right? And I'm telling you, like, you know, so the next ones to lay this out for you guys, and we can get to them later. So the next one is a series of bad trips, and then once I get over the bad trips, then I'm going through a thing where I'm like trying to have a spiritual awakening, right? A realization, and then, you know, I share a little bit of that with, my girlfriend. I end up sharing it with my sister as well, although not much comes of that. But, and then I go on these, like, serious, like, hard, what would you call them? Just like trips where I'm resetting myself, you know. It's like a series of trips where I reset everything, and so that way I can, you know, connect to that real me. That's where the real me is kind of like more so formed and realized. Now once that happens, then I have a series of trips where it's like connections to the divine. You know, they're very very, very spiritual, very Christian, you know, lots of contemplations on like Jesus and like the God of the Bible and everything like that, you know, then about that time also is, and then right after I have those, I have that one I've mentioned a couple times where I got high and I didn't have the mystical experience, and it was a great realization for me, you know, that the mysticism doesn't always come, and that you got to do things right, and you got to be in the right mindset, and you got to take it with respect in order to get the mystical experience. And then the series of trips to follow that, which are my latest trips, they're all just more and more divine. They're just all like these incredible, just like eye-opening revelation type stuff. I mean, well, not revelation type stuff. I should more say I don't know, just transcendent. They were transcendent type trips. So I don't know. I mean that's the outline. You know, I mean, I'm going to go into more detail on them the best I can and everything, and probably continue along with these lines of wondering exactly what's going on. I've also been, for anybody that's interested, I've been active on the Quentin experience on his Discord page. So if you guys want to hop on there, there's a lot of people that take psychedelics. Not all of them have a very good or healthy outlook on what the psychedelics are doing. And I think one of the reasons that I was kind of able to so easily form like a true self or something like that, the way I was able to form it, and I'm able to get back to it so quickly now, is I think it has to do with the Christian values and everything like that. Basically, this is going to be one. Here we go. So my theory is basically is what the psilocybins do is they basically let you experience death, right? The separation of your soul from your body, and And what the Bible does is the Bible's teaching people how when they die, how it's going to be, right? How, and this is all like, in the teachings of the text, and it's not necessarily direct or anything like that, but basically, it's teaching you, okay, if you do the right things when you die, and you go to that other side, and your soul is separated from your body, right? That's the way to make it. That's the way to make it on the other side. Because like I said, I'm going to get into these bad trips. And so when you die, you could have a bad trip. You could sit there and get caught up in your own hell or whatever. You sit there and you dwell on your sins, or you are lustful or greedy or something like that, right? So when you die, you go to hell. The hell is something you create. It's you being like unwilling to let go of like this world and the body, so if you're lustful, you don't want to let go of that. If you're greedy, you don't want to let go of the money or whatever, or you don't want to let go of your riches, or or if you're an angry person, you can't let go of that anger. Or if you're frustration, if you have frustration, you can't let go of that frustration, resentment, things like that. And that's what the Bible's teaching, right? Is it's teaching forgiveness. Like part of the Bible, is being able to forgive yourself too, and that's usually like through Jesus. You got to like go through Jesus to get forgiveness. And so then once you got that, you can forgive yourself, and then you can let go of that stuff. And so what you can do on the mushrooms is the mushrooms are a much lighter version, obviously, of real death, because you're not really dying. You got to come back in 4 hours and everything, and then you forget everything that happened. And so what the mushrooms are doing is you're basically doing the same thing. You're experiencing all of it. You're experiencing your death, and then your separation of your body from your soul. And that's where we're at in the trip, right? So I'd already suffered the death with my girlfriend, and now I was feeling the separation of my body and my soul. And so then in the next trips, what ends up happening is I end up holding on to that resentment, the anger, the whatever else I was holding on to at the time. And then you got to let go of that. And then if you let go of that, you can form your new body, your true self, your one. And then and then you can experience the divine, experience God. So I don't know. I'm giving a preview of the future and everything like that, and I think everything's gonna mirror these thoughts. That's why I think they're archetypical, and that's why I think they work. I think that's what I did, but I'm not for sure. Once again, I could be delusional, and that's another part of making these podcasts. Is I got to see, and I got to work out in my mind and speaking, and see, am I just crazy? Is it all in my mind? Am I just making something up over my head? You know what I mean? And I don't know. A lot of the evidence points to no, like I said, because other people see the same things and experience the same things there. And when me and the girlfriend are both there, when she's tripping and I'm tripping and we're together, we sense and feel and see the same things. So that's another thing that lends it to not being just in my mind. They talk about, there's a lot of people on that Quentin experiment. There's a lot of people that talk about being able to read each other's minds, being able to communicate with each other, being able to see through each other's eyes, things like that. That would indicate that, their souls are somehow, intertwined or being mixed up or whatever, or something like that, in the bodies. So people say people see entities especially on DMT, obviously, but you can see them on mushrooms too. And I believe I got to the same place on mushrooms that anybody else can get on DMT. I believe you can also do it on mushrooms. And that seems like those guys that take, 20 plus grams, 30 plus grams, that seems like what they do. It seems like they go more so to that DMT realm. It's a little further than where I like to be. I do like to be kind of grounded on my trips too. Like it's like, I'm in the other realm, but I'm still in control of my body, or I can come back and like control my body enough to where it's not just a hunk on the floor or something like that, or just completely paralyzed or anything, which I have experienced as well. So anyways, oh man, this is like a really rambly last couple 15 minutes here. Yeah, continue to upload these up on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Anything to help out the algorithm. I'm actually surprised at how many views I have, or how many listens I have on the dang podcast. I'm also surprised at where some of them are coming from. We get quite a few international listeners, which is pretty cool. So thanks to all y'all who are listening and everything. And so that'll be this one. Sorry this one was rambly. Yeah. I'll try to find a way to make them a little more solid. I might have to do more than like one or two trips in a podcast here instead of just doing one like that. I just tried to do that one, so I'll try to get several out on the next one then. So, all right, thanks guys.